Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Polish President Andrzej Duda has signed a law establishing a commission to investigate alleged Russian influence on Poland's internal security from 2007 to 2022. According to the President, transparency in resolving important public and political issues is of key importance to him. The President signed the law despite claims that the commission could be used to bar opposition politicians from public office. Poland goes to the polls this autumn, and opponents of the government have argued that the commission could be used to target opposition leaders such as Donald Tusk, a former Prime Minister and now leader of Civic Platform, the largest opposition party, ahead of the vote. But the President said the public should be able to judge how parliamentarians and government officials behaved. I care deeply about being transparent about important public and political issues. The public should form its own opinion about how various representatives, including popularly elected ones who are entrusted with very responsible state functions, have performed them. The bill provides for a 9-person committee with 5 seats held by Law and Justice deputies and the remaining 4 by the opposition. In the event of a finding of Russian influence on the activities of public officials, the Commission would have the power to impose remedial measures. However, any decision on the punishment of such individuals would fall within the competence of the courts and not of the Commission itself. It introduces a new administrative body, a committee, that issues administrative decisions. These decisions are final, but not legally binding. After the verdict of the Commission, there is always the possibility of filing an appeal against the administrative decision. The following decisions may be taken by the Commission: to revoke an administrative decision issued as a result of Russian influence, to issue a ban on performing functions related to the managing of public funds for up to 10 years, and to revoke and ban security clearance for 10 years. Despite signing the bill, the President has decided to send it to the country's constitutional tribunal to review the legislation's constitutionality, suggesting that he has some doubts about the new law. This means that the legislation will enter into effect unless the court decides to overturn it, which could take months. In response to the announcement, the Polish opposition condemned the presidential decision and argued that the law only served the interests of the ruling party, the Conservative Law and Justice Party, of whom Duda is a former member. The President also said a similar commission should be set up at the EU level, adding that he would ask Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki to raise the issue at the next European Council meeting. We have a dramatic situation beyond our eastern border. We have the Russian aggression against Ukraine, we have the war, we have the economic and energy crisis caused by it, and we have a number of negative factors, Duda explained. Poland has imposed sanctions on Belarus in response to the upholding of a draconian prison sentence for Polish journalist Andrzej Poczobut and the continuing repression of political opponents to the Lukashenko regime. Another 365 Belarusian citizens were added to the sanctions list, and the financial and economic assets of 20 entities and 16 individuals tied to Russian capital were frozen. Freight traffic between Poland and Belarus will be suspended from the 1st of June. Under the new sanctions, up to 365 Belarusians will be banned from entering the Schengen area. 365 Belarusian citizens have been added to the list of undesirable foreigners on Polish territory by the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Administration. Another 20 economic entities, 19 of which have links with Russia and 1 with Belarus, are also subject to the restrictions. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Administration made the decision today, and it applies immediately. Poczobut, 49, is a well-known journalist in Belarus and a long-time correspondent for Polish media. He was also an activist for the Union of Poles in Belarus, a Polish minority organisation that has been outlawed by Belarusian authorities. In February, he was found guilty of intentional actions with the aim of inciting hostility and hatred on national, religious and social grounds. Poland accused the Belarusian regime of fabricating the charges and called for his unconditional release. He is internationally recognised as a prisoner of conscience, and other countries have joined Poland in the call for his release. Poczobut's conviction has soured relations between Warsaw and Minsk, leading to tit-for-tat diplomatic expulsions and border restrictions between the two countries. Later on Monday, former Belarusian ambassador to Poland, Paweł Latuszko, said that the Polish government's decision to expand the sanctions list against Lukashenko's regime officials and companies linked to Belarusian and Russian capital was significant. He noted that Poland has set an example to other countries and for the European Union, which was unable to adopt a package of sanctions last year. He said that this is a very strong signal to the dictatorial regime that it will be held responsible for the crimes committed against the citizens of Belarus and representatives of the Polish minority living in Belarus. President Tayyip Erdogan said on Sunday that Turks had given him the responsibility of governing for the next 5 years, declaring Turkey as the only winner of the runoff presidential election. Addressing supporters from atop a bus in Istanbul, Erdogan, who has led Turkey for 2 decades, thanked people for voting and said he had won Sunday's runoff vote against the challenger Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu with their support. The victory extends Erdogan's 2 decades in power and gives him a mandate to pursue increasingly authoritarian policies, which have polarised Turkey and strengthened its position as a region military power. Ahmet Yener, the head of Turkey's High Electoral Board, confirmed the victory for Erdogan at a news conference late on Sunday. It has been determined that Mr Recep Tayyip Erdogan received 51.91% of the votes and Mr Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu received 48.09% in the countrywide vote count. We are seeing that Mr Recep Tayyip Erdogan received 59.8% of the vote abroad and Mr Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu 40.20% of the votes. It has been calculated that Mr Recep Tayyip Erdogan received 52.1% of the all votes and Mr Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu received 47.86%. I have a request from all of you. Please, let's keep the struggle for democracy alive for yourself, for your children, for the retirees, for our mothers and fathers, for our farmers and tradesmen. We experienced the most unfair election in recent years. All the means of the state were mobilised for a political party. All possibilities were laid under one man's feet. In this election, the will of the people to change an authoritarian regime emerged despite all the pressures. We will continue our struggle on all fronts with all members of the Republican People's Party and the National Alliance. We will continue to be at the forefront of this struggle until real democracy comes to our country. Official results showed that Kılıçdaroğlu won 47.9% of the votes and Erdogan 52.1%, pointing to a deeply divided nation. Kılıçdaroğlu called it the most unfair election in years, but did not dispute the outcome. He called on his supporters to continue the struggle for democracy, for your children, for the retirees, for our mothers and fathers, for our farmers and tradesmen. Erdogan appeared to have prevailed despite years of economic turmoil, which critics blame on unorthodox economic policies which the opposition had pledged to reverse. Latvians woke up for work on Monday morning only to find out that they didn't need to, as their parliament convened at midnight to declare a bank holiday in honour of the national team taking 3rd place at the Ice Hockey World Championship. At a quarter to midnight on Sunday, draped in red and white national team jerseys, members of parliament convened for a 10-minute session to unanimously declare the bank holiday. It was to strengthen the fact of significant success of Latvian athletes in the social memory of our society, the sponsors of the bill wrote in an annotation. The bill was introduced by a smiling member of parliament with her face painted in the Latvian national flag. Another member of parliament was giggling merrily when trying to read out the names of absent parliamentarians, joined in laughter by many in the hall. The ovations of everyone present were heard after the final vote. But confusion was reported on Monday in Latvia as it was not immediately clear what was working and what was not. Court hearings were cancelled on Monday and schools and universities were closed, but scheduled national exams for high school students went ahead, with staff paid at holiday rates. Plans of businesses were put into disarray by the short notice. The president of the Latvian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Egārs Rostovickis, told public broadcaster LSM, "It will be chaos for many." Several hospitals chose to stay open to honour doctors' appointments. Latvia, where ice hockey is considered the national sport, was co-hosting the men's championship with Finland, and the extra-time victory of its national team over the United States for 3rd place, best ever for the team, was met with national jubilation. An Air Baltic aeroplane bringing the national team from Finland flew by at a low altitude over central Riga on Monday to greet the thousands gathered for the homecoming. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.